Please help me to reach 7,000 subscribers. A cold winter morning settled over Manhattan as Emily Carter sat alone in the waiting room at Mount Sinai West, gently rubbing her 7-month belly. The fluorescent lights above buzzed softly, matching the quiet ache in her chest. Jason was late again. He always had an excuse lately: meetings, deadlines, traffic, but somehow he never missed nights out that didn't include her. Emily looked down at the ultrasound photo tucked between her fingers. A tiny smile appeared as she whispered, "Stay strong for me, baby, you're my whole reason." The automatic doors slid open behind her, letting in a rush of cold air and the sharp click of designer heels. Vanessa Cole walked in like she owned the hospital: perfect curls, tailored coat, and that signature smirk she wore whenever she knew she was stepping into someone else's territory. Her eyes locked onto Emily instantly. "Well, well," she said, crossing her arms. "Still pretending you matter to him." Emily's breath caught. "Vanessa, please, not here." Vanessa stepped closer, perfume heavy and suffocating. "Jason was supposed to leave you months ago, but you trapped him with this baby." Her voice dripped with venom. "You're nothing but dead weight." A few heads turned, sensing tension. Emily's hands trembled as she held her belly. "I don't want to fight you." "That's because you can't," Vanessa hissed. "You've already lost." Before Emily could respond, Vanessa shoved her hard. The world tilted. Her back hit the cold hospital floor, pain ripping through her abdomen. Gasps erupted around them as nurses rushed forward. Emily clutched her stomach, panic crashing over her. "No, no, 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 please, please stay with me," she cried, voice cracking. Vanessa froze, realizing what she'd done. In her panic, a gold bracelet slipped from her wrist, engraved with the initials VC, and clattered onto the tiles. She snatched her purse, stumbled, and bolted for the exit as shouts echoed across the room. A nurse slid an oxygen mask over Emily's face, calling out vitals, calling for a gurney. The edges of Emily's vision blurred, the sounds turning distant and hollow. Her final whisper before consciousness slipped away was a desperate, broken plea: "Please don't take my baby." The room spun, the lights faded, and everything went dark. If someone attacked a pregnant woman in front of you, what would you do? Comment protect her if you believe some lines should never be crossed. The moment Grant Donovan's phone rang, he knew something was wrong. His assistant never called twice in a row unless it was life-changing or life-ending. He stepped out of a boardroom high above Midtown, the winter sky reflecting off the Donovan Tower windows as he answered with a sharp, "What happened?" The words hit him like a blow. Emily, hospital, emergency, possible trauma. Grant didn't wait for details. The billionaire everyone feared in business became nothing more than a terrified uncle as he shoved through traffic, his driver barely keeping up. Snow flurries blurred the city lights while his mind replayed every moment he'd told Emily to be strong instead of asking her if she was okay. When he burst into Mount Sinai West, doctors and machines surrounded her. Emily lay pale and still, tubes running along her arms, monitors flickering with fragile rhythm. For the first time in years, Grant felt his throat tight. She looked so small, too still, too silent. The doctor approached, voice controlled but urgent. Emily was stable for now, but the baby needed monitoring every second. One wrong shift, one spike in stress, and everything could change. Grant nodded stiffly, jaw clenched, eyes locked on Emily as guilt pressed against his ribs. He'd promised her father he'd look after her, and he'd failed. Then he noticed something on the counter, a gold bracelet. Initials engraved, VC. "What is that?" his voice demanded. A nurse explained how a woman fled the scene. Security footage was already being reviewed, witnesses were talking. Grant felt something dark shift inside him, colder than the January air outside, sharper than any deal he'd ever negotiated. And as if summoned by tension, Jason finally walked in. Not running, not breathless, just strolling down the hallway with the casual arrogance of a man inconvenienced. "What happened now?" Jason asked, annoyed. Grant stepped toward him like a storm forming. "What happened is that my niece was attacked while she carried your child." Jason rolled his eyes. Maybe she slipped. Emily's dramatic. Grant shoved the bracelet against his chest. This was left behind by your girlfriend. Jason's face paled for half a second, then hardened. People argue Emily probably started. You're done talking, Grant snapped, voice deep enough to make nurses look up. He gestured towards security. He is not allowed anywhere near her ICU room. He doesn't get updates. He doesn't get excuses. He will not add one more ounce of stress to her life. Jason stepped forward. You don't control me. Grant leaned in, voice low and lethal. Watch me. As Jason was escorted away, Grant turned back to Emily. He rested a trembling hand on the rail of her hospital bed. I swear to you, he said softly, I will protect you. Even if I have to tear down every lie that ever touched your life. He meant every word. Would you want someone like Grant in your life, a protector who doesn't hesitate? Comment yes if you believe every woman deserves someone who stands up for her. She didn't shout. She didn't accuse. She chose silence, the kind that scares a guilty heart more than any noise. Late at night, she noticed the pattern, his phone always face down, notifications hidden, calls taken in another room. Her heart whispered, trust him, but her mind finally said, check once. And that one check changed everything. She opened his phone, and there it was, unknown numbers, late-night messages, deleted chats, but technology never lies. She became her own detective. Screenshots, timestamps, digital traces. A silent investigation began. On the other side, he felt the shift. He sensed her distance. So he started deleting messages faster than he typed them. It became a digital war, one covering up, the other uncovering. Two people in the same house fighting battles behind screens without saying a single word. And deep down, she already knew. Loyalty shouldn't need investigation. The Midtown Charity Gala was supposed to be elegant, calm, and full of smiling faces, but that night, the truth walked into the room wearing a red dress. She arrived poised, collected, looking like someone who had finally accepted the storm instead of running from it. Everyone turned, the kind of silence that follows a woman who knows more than she says. He was already there, laughing too loudly, pretending life was perfect. But when he saw her, his smile dropped. Guilt always recognizes the person it betrayed. She didn't confront him. She didn't make a scene. She simply handed the event coordinator a sealed envelope and asked them to deliver it to the stage manager. Minutes later, the lights dimmed, the screens lit up, and the room froze. Photos, messages, call logs, every piece of proof she had quietly collected, displayed in front of New York's most influential crowd. Whispers turned into shock. Shock turned into judgment, and judgment turned straight toward him. He tried to shout, tried to deny, but the room had already decided. People stepped back from him like betrayal was contagious. She stood still, composed, unbroken, almost regal, because sometimes the loudest revenge is letting the truth speak for itself. And as she walked out, the cameras followed her, not him. That night, the city didn't talk about his exposure. They talked about her strength. The fallout from the gala spread through the city faster than wildfire. Overnight, his reputation collapsed. Investors backed away. Friends stopped calling, and every headline carried the same message: exposed and finished. Vanessa, the woman he risked everything for, panicked first. She wasn't ready for chaos. She wasn't ready to be known as the reason a man's life publicly crumbled. Suddenly, the late-night confidence she had vanished, replaced by trembling hands and frantic calls. She begged him to fix it, but he had nothing left to fix with, because someone far more powerful had just entered the battlefield. Donovan, the billionaire uncle, the man people feared to disappoint, had seen everything. And when Donovan moved, the whole city felt it. First, he shut down the company accounts linked to his nephew. Then came the calls, lawyers, investigators, PR teams, all working under one order. Uncover everything, all of it. Vanessa didn't know Donovan. She didn't know he disliked mess. And she definitely didn't know he hated liars. Within hours, Donovan's team traced messages, payments, hotel check-ins, every secret exposed, every lie sharpened like a weapon. Vanessa tried to delete, deny, disappear. But by then, Donovan already had a file on her thicker than a court case. Cornered, terrified, she tried to reach the wife, calling, texting, begging for forgiveness she didn't deserve. But the wife never replied. Silence was her answer. And Donovan was just getting started, because betrayal wasn't going to end quietly, not when a billionaire had taken it personally. The courthouse steps were crowded that morning, reporters, flashing cameras, murmuring onlookers. Everyone wanted to witness the final chapter of a scandal that had shaken the entire city. She arrived calm, graceful, dressed in quiet confidence. No fear, no hesitation, just a woman ready to let justice speak. He showed up minutes later, looking exhausted, defeated, and far older than he had just weeks before. The weight of his choices had finally settled on his shoulders, and behind him, Vanessa. Eyes swollen, makeup smudged, clinging to a hope that didn't exist anymore. Inside, the courtroom felt colder than any winter morning. Donovan sat in the front row, expression carved from stone, a silent reminder that the consequences today weren't just legal, they were personal. The judge reviewed everything, the messages, the financial trails, the hotel logs, the betrayal layered deeper than anyone could have imagined. Every lie unraveled like thread pulled from a broken sweater. She didn't cry. She didn't tremble. She answered calmly, honestly, with the dignity of someone who refused to let pain turn her into anger. But him, every question hit like a hammer. Every piece of evidence pushed him further into a corner he could no longer escape. Vanessa tried to defend herself, tried to twist her involvement into misunderstandings, but the courtroom wasn't a place for excuses. It was a place for truth. And for the first time, he finally admitted it, every secret, every message, every betrayal. Not out of courage, but because there was nowhere left to hide. The judge's ruling was clear, sharp, and final. She walked out with her dignity restored, her future protected. He walked out with a reputation beyond repair. And Vanessa, she didn't walk out at all, escorted away for the charges she thought she'd never face. Outside, when she stepped into the sunlight, the city didn't see a victim, they saw a woman who rose. And as cameras turned toward her, she whispered a quiet message for every person watching online. Loyalty is a choice. Betrayal is a decision. Choose wisely and never stay silent when your heart deserves better. If this hit you, drop your thoughts in the comments. Your words might help someone who needs courage today. Months passed, but she didn't waste a single one. Pain had carved out the strongest version of her, and she stepped into her new life like someone who finally remembered her worth. She moved into a bright apartment overlooking the Hudson, a place filled with quiet mornings, warm coffee, and the kind of peace she once prayed for. She started therapy, rebuilt her career, reconnected with people who actually cared. And slowly, the pieces of her heart didn't just come back together, they came back sharper, wiser, unbreakable. City streets that once held memories of him now held memories of her, walking with confidence, smiling freely, breathing without weight. People who saw her whispered about her strength, not her past. She became a reminder that healing doesn't require permission, only courage. Donovan checked in often, not out of pity, but out of respect. He admired the way she survived something that would have shattered anyone else. He even opened doors for her, new projects, new partnerships, new beginnings she fully deserved. But life has a way of keeping one shadow lingering behind every bright chapter. One evening, as she walked home from a late meeting, she sensed it, the feeling that someone was watching. Not close enough to see, but close enough to feel. Her ex had vanished from public view after the courtroom storm. No interviews, no photos, just silence. But silence never means absence. A figure stood across the street, just at the edge of a street lamp's glow. Too far to identify, too still to be casual. And when she looked directly toward the silhouette, it stepped back into the darkness. Her heart didn't panic this time, it didn't break, it didn't falter, it steadied. Because she wasn't the same woman he once broke, she wasn't afraid of shadows anymore. She walked forward, chin high, steps confident, whispering to herself, if the past wants to follow me, it better learn that I don't run anymore. And for everyone watching, everyone listening, everyone fighting their own quiet battles, if this moment touched you, tell your story in the comments. Your voice might be the strength someone needs. Tonight's sunrise spilled gold across the Manhattan skyline, painting the city in a new light, one that reflected her own transformation. She held her baby boy, little Noah, in her arms, feeling his soft breath against her chest. Every worry, every betrayal, every sleepless night had led her here to this quiet, powerful moment. The foundation she started in her mother's memory had grown beyond her wildest dreams. Hospitals, community centers, survivors of abuse reaching out, she was no longer just a victim. She had become a beacon of resilience. Grant watched from the doorway, his usually stern expression softened into something rare, pride. The man who once stormed hospital corridors with fury now stood quietly, letting her shine. No lectures, no overprotection, just presence, strength, and unwavering support. Yet even in this calm, life reminded her that darkness often lingers at the edges. An envelope arrived at the apartment, sealed but familiar. Inside, a short video clip, courtroom footage, but one frame caught her attention. A man half in shadow, smiling faintly at the camera before disappearing into the crowd. No name, no explanation, just a silent promise. Someone had watched over her all along. Someone still believed in justice. She felt no fear, only curiosity, only strength. Because she had learned the most important lesson: the past doesn't control her. Her choices, her courage, her voice, those define her story. She kissed Noah's forehead, whispered softly, "Pain only wins when we stop fighting, and we will never stop." The city stretched out below her, alive, bustling, indifferent, yet somehow perfect. And for the first time, she truly believed the future belonged to her, bright, hopeful, and full of endless possibility. If this story inspired you, share your city and state in the comments and tell us. Which moment gave you the most chills, the hospital attack, the gala exposure, or this final twist? Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to follow more stories where truth, justice, and courage always win.